Hello everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jake Saratsian, and today we brought in 3 amazing guests to help you prepare your business for the final quarter of the year. To the left is Carrie Casper, a strategist for commerce marketplaces at Tinuiti. Next to her is Chelsea Cohen, the co-founder of So Stocked by Carbon6. And to the right is Eva Hart, an Amazon brand owner and the senior manager of demand generation here at Jungle Scout. Now, what makes this webinar extra special today is that all 3 speakers actually collaborated on a downloadable month-by-month checklist that you can use to prepare for the Q4 shopping season. And here it is right here. This is the Q4 Holiday Readiness Checklist. It lays out all the most important dates, insider tips, and proven strategies for outperforming your competition in Q4. It even includes more insider tips that aren't included in today's video, so make sure to pick it up your own free copy of this report with the link below. If you're watching live, we'll put this in the live chat, and if you're watching the replay, we'll go ahead and put it in the comments below of LinkedIn or YouTube. And now here's what you can expect from this webinar. First, you're gonna learn how to optimize your listings and storefronts to gotta get it in full screen here. You're gonna learn how to optimize your listings and storefronts to help you capitalize during these moments of elevated traffic on Amazon during Q4. And then you're also gonna learn how to take advantage of your market's historical data to inform your sales and advertise strategies for Q4. And speaking of advertising, we're gonna transition that section into another section that's gonna dive much deeper into advertising, advanced advertising techniques that are gonna help you stay profitable, especially while targeting those holiday shoppers. And then last but certainly not least, none of this matters without having an inventory plan. So we're gonna wrap up this webinar with proven ways to help you actually lower your costs and increase your margins with a smart inventory management plan. But now I'll go ahead and kick things off by passing it over to Eva for Q4 listing optimization tips.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so I'm going to be talking to you guys today about market research and then also listing optimization. So we're going to start with listing and storefront optimization. So the first thing that I always suggest brands do, the brands I've worked with in the past, is to create a holiday spirit within their listings. So 67% of consumers shop for holiday gifts on Amazon. And as you know, the in-store experience is much different than shopping online. When you go inside of Walmart, when you walk in, there's Christmas trees and holiday things everywhere. There's Santa Claus. Right in the front of the store, there's that gift section with all the perfect gifts. And so even if you're going inside of Walmart just to get groceries, you stop and you shop for gifts. So that is how you should look at your Amazon strategy as well. You want to make sure when people land on your listing that even if you don't have the product that's the perfect gift, that they're thinking of it as a gift. So you can do this by adding holiday themes, such as adding festive backgrounds and showcasing gift-worthy packaging. So let's say you sell Band-Aids. Well, what you could do there is throw a bow on top of the Band-Aid package and add some language such as the perfect gift for that accident-prone person in your life. It's as easy as that. So the next thing that you're going to want to do is update your product titles, bullet points, and back-end search terms with holiday and gift-related keywords and phrases to capture seasonal traffic. And we're going to get a little bit deeper into keyword research in the next section, so I'm going to kind of gloss over that and move on. So the next thing that you want to do is build a holiday-ready storefront. So this is very similar to the strategy that you take with your listings. So you'll want to integrate holiday imagery and videos into that storefront design. So as I mentioned, adding bows onto the packaging, showing someone giving the gift, adding language such as the perfect gift for whoever your target audience for that product is. You want to feature any deals or promotions that you're running in the Q4 season. You want those prominently on your homepage to capture the attention of deal-seeking shoppers. One of the things I also suggest the brands that I work with do is creating a new storefront page that is just for Q4. You can schedule it to stop showing up right in, I would say, January 15, because people are still technically gift shopping into the January season for people they might not see on Christmas. So what you can do is create a page that is all holiday themed, and it can have a curated gift guide. So feature the products in your catalog that are the most gift worthy. And then of course, again, you'll want to feature any of the coupons you're running or the deals you're running, have those at the top of your storefront. And you can go ahead and run ad campaigns and even Google campaigns and social media campaigns directly to this curated gift guide storefront. So next, we're going to talk about competitive analysis and market research. I'm going to go through 4 steps. There's a lot you can do here. We don't have enough time to cover it, but step 1 is going to be a more general overview of your market. So one of the things you're going to want to look at is who are the category leaders by market share. I'm using the toys and games category just because that is the most purchased product in Q4. So no matter what category you fall in, you can get this information by using a tool such as Cobalt. So one of the other things you want to do is search for your top competitors. So your top competitors won't necessarily be, Paw Patrols or Funko, just depending on kind of where you're at with your revenue and market share within the games and toys category. But you'll want to look at the brands that have the most similar market share to you. Those are going to be the brands who are your key competitors. So after you get an idea of market share leaders and your top competitors, you want to do a deep dive into their listings. Look at their storefront and their A+ content and make sure you're not missing anything in your listings that they're featuring, and make sure you're just fully optimized so that you can really convert all of those additional shoppers that are going to be on Amazon in Q4. Then you're going to want to look at top selling products by unit sales. This gives you an idea of what's selling within your category and your subcategory. It also can give you an idea of how you're performing in comparison to some of these top products. So for example, if you also were selling an airplane launcher, and your sales took a dip this quarter, you might be in full panic mode trying to figure out what's going on with your ad campaigns, what's going on with your listings. But if you look at the top selling product, you can see that their sales also took a 6% dip over the last quarter. So you can see that you're kind of comparing with what's going on in the market. So it can just give you more information to move forward with strategies for growing the sales of that product. So on to step 2, as I mentioned, keyword research. So use a keyword research tool to figure out what you want to feature in your title, your bullet points, back-end search terms, and your advertising campaigns. Now, this is something you've already done for your product, but you want to do this again, and I suggest doing it now because as you can see, the keywords that I included here, this is actually current data. So 30,000 people, almost 30,000 people within the last 30 days have searched for Christmas gift for kids. So that just gives you an idea of how early on Christmas shoppers are starting to do their research. They might not be purchasing right now, but they're doing their research. And you want your products, if you're selling toys, to be showing up on these keywords that you see on the screen here. So this is something that you're going to want to get done in September. Figure out what gift-related terms, Christmas, any other type of holidays that you want to include there. Make sure these are incorporated into your advertising campaigns and into your listing in September. The next thing we're going to cover is step 3, which is price band analysis. So again, we're in that September timeframe where everything that you want to get done in preparation for Q4, you really want to be doing right now and implementing it within September. That checklist that we mentioned, that will give you a bit more detail on timeframes for doing things, but your price band analysis is something that you want to do in September. You want to get an idea of what are the average prices for your category, for your subcategory? How have those been fluctuating over the past couple quarters, over the past couple of years? You can drill down all the way to specific products and specific brands to get an idea of what their average prices are and how those have either increased or decreased over the last 2 years of rolling time period. So this would give you an idea here for the top performing toys in this category and what they're priced at. So you can kind of get an idea of how your product compares and decide if you want to do a price increase now to be able to give yourself a little bit more room in your margin for when you do the deals and coupons over Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and different holiday campaigns that you might be running. So now would be the time to add in those price increases to be able to give you more, just more buffer room for when you run those deals. So this leads us to step 4, which is kind of figuring out what your PPC strategy might be. And I'm not going to get too deep into this because, as I mentioned, as Jake mentioned, Carrie is going to be doing a really big deep dive into advertising. So I just wanted to talk to you guys quickly about a cool tool that you can use to kind of hone in on your advertising strategy. And it's called the Share a Voice tool. So you can access this through Cobalt. And what you can do is type in really any of the keywords that you are targeting in your listings and want to target in your advertising campaigns. You can search it and figure out who the share of voice owners are for that and see if there's really room to compete there. So I used the word action figures or the keyword action figures and discovered that Mattel owns almost 25% of the share of voice. That means they're showing up 25% of the time on page 1 with either organic or sponsored ads. As you can see here, so Mattel owns Lego, and they are the top advertising spot here and one of the top sponsored spots. And then if you kept on scrolling, you would see Mattel and their different brands and different products popping up all over the page. So action figures might not be a word that you want to put too much PPC budget into, and you might want to try to get a little bit more targeted with the keywords that you're bidding on. Try to find the keywords that don't have, market leaders who own a significant portion of the front page. So if you look at different keywords, you might see there's brands who own 2% or 3%. So that really shows you that there's room for growth and there's room for your sponsored display ads and for you to show up organically for those. So those might want to be the ones that you put more of your PPC budget into. So I'm going to kick it over to Carrie, but just wanted to give you guys a quick overview of Jungle Scout, Cobalt, and Jungle Scout Data Cloud. This is where I got the data in the market research section that we went over. So you can use these tools to really fuel your Q4 strategy by tracking market share, analyzing performance data for not only your own brand, but for other brands competing in the market. You can gauge market trends, optimize ad campaigns, and then, of course, as I showed you in those last slides, measure your share of voice and discovered keyword trends. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Carrie, and she's going to cover Q4 Amazon advertising strategies.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Eva. All right, let's get into advertising strategies. The first thing with a strategy is you have to set your strategy. And setting a strategy, you have to prioritize your main business goal. This may seem very, very basic, but a lot of times we see that there are competing goals within an advertising strategy. When we're looking at the top of the funnel, typically we're looking at incrementality. We're looking at new to brand. We're trying to drive brand growth year over year. But also, we want high ROAS. We want high conversion rates. Those metrics are typically associated with bottom of the funnel, somebody searching your brand, your loyalty campaigns, your retargeting campaigns. So when you're prioritizing your business goal, instead of looking at a blended return or a blended conversion rate for everything you're doing in the funnel, make sure you're setting up your goals based on the priority that they fall in the funnel. You can't have both high new to brand and high conversion rate. They compete against each other. So make sure you consider that when you're prioritizing your goals. The other portion with setting your goals is really understanding how those consumers are shopping throughout the Q4 period. So when we're looking at October, November, obviously there's Prime Big Deal Day in October, which can come with higher conversion rates, but typically consumers are deliberate about their searches during this time period. They're considering what to purchase. They're researching products they want. They're researching brands they want to buy from. They're researching all of the features and benefits. So really heavy up on your consideration campaigns during this time period. As you head into cyber, typically, consumers are deal seeking. 74% of shoppers choose where to buy based on who offer the best deals. So making sure you're offering the deepest discounts you can offer for your products. Ideally, within October and November, focusing on consideration, you're getting consumers to add to their cart so that when they are deal seeking during the cyber time period, they can see the notification that the price point has dropped and then they can purchase. So really focus on deal seeking during the cyber period. As we head into December, consumers are now determined. They're looking at last minute gifts. They're trying to get something that will come in during the shipping time period before that 2-day cutoff before the holiday. And so they're really determined to purchase. A little less deal seeking during this period, but it is important to still show up at top of search, retarget consumers, really making sure you're focused on the full funnel within December. Post-season, consumers are now devoted. So likely shoppers have gotten a gift card or they've returned some products and now they're shopping for themselves. So what you're looking to do here is focus on your loyalty and retargeting campaigns. Consumers are looking to buy from brands they've purchased from in the past or get the gifts they want to purchase for themselves. So really focus on those loyalty campaigns during that time period. All right. Now we need to inform with data. I don't know if anybody knows this, but we have an election this year in November. This can impact your advertising strategy in a few different ways. So one, when we look at presidential or campaign spend for any election, it's typically highly focused on streaming TV campaigns or connected TV. So unless you have a guaranteed rate, those costs may increase really starting now until the election. So consider that within your strategy if you are running those type of campaigns. In addition, consumers' attention is really focused on the election. They're messaging with the election, everything that has to do with the election. So you will likely see a slump in shopper demand, but that will increase about a week after the election. So just consider how that will impact your campaigns and performance overall. The other data point here is that we do have a condensed holiday season this year. So Thanksgiving falls on November 28th, and the cyber time period rolls into December, which means we have 5 fewer shopping days before the shipping cutoff in this year versus last year. So really the idea here is you want to just consider that within your strategy and how that may impact your total sales. Really trying to front load those sales if you can within that cyber period, just because there are less days to get those conversions this year. A few other areas to consider are products, promos, and selections. So which ASINs are you advertising? Which ones have promos, and maybe which ones you're not as focused on at the moment. Understand the priority within those products and set up the promos and advertising strategy to align with those priorities of ASINs. So one, did you have products that have really strong conversion rates, maybe during other deal periods throughout the year, Prime Day, Prime Big Deal Day, and can you invest more with these products? Do you have inventory to support these products to support that? Do you have products that are really high in sales, but maybe they're not getting the advertising support they need? Do you have the budget to create more visibility on those products to increase the sales? And then lastly, do you have products that have excess inventory? Do you have the budget to support those minimally to make sure you can get through some of that inventory within the Q4 period? And then, like Eva mentioned, search terms and keywords are highly important this time of year. So review your targeting to see, are there any new terms that you can add to campaigns that are gaining traction? A good example is, Christmas gifts for kids, Christmas gifts for dads, for aunts, for uncles, whoever it may be. They're likely not super high volume, but it is really impactful for your products within the category. So understand, are you adding these terms to current campaigns, or are you creating new campaigns to see the performance of some of these keywords against current strategies? So understand what that looks like on Amazon. And then make sure you're negating terms that aren't relevant or strategies that aren't relevant this time of year. Maybe you have some seasonality to your products, or there are certain strategies you focus more on during different times of the year. So negate or adjust your strategy around T5. And then lastly, your campaigns and ad types. So is there opportunity to adjust investment by tactic based on previous performance? So a good example of this is when we look at earlier in the quarter, are we focusing on consideration and awareness, those in-market shoppers, to make sure they're adding to the cart? And then during cyber period, are we focusing more on conversion versus the upper funnel campaigns that we had already running at the beginning of the quarter? So really understand your full funnel support and how you're adjusting that spend throughout the quarter. And then lastly, if you haven't already, pull an advertising audit to just easily see where you can improve and make some adjustments before the Cyber 5 period gets here. Another really key data point to consider is hourly bidding. Historically, we've used this with Amazon Marketing Stream as a data source. You can now use this with Amazon Marketing Cloud, and really understanding how your consumers are shopping throughout the day. An example of this could be, if you have an infomercial product, maybe consumers are shopping in the early morning hours of the day. If you don't, maybe they're shopping at peak periods of the day, in the afternoon, later in the day. So understanding how you're setting up your bidding strategies per hour of the day to focus on how your consumers are converting for your brand. One caveat to this is consumers shop a little bit differently during tentpoles than they do during a regular day. So they may be up a little bit earlier on a tentpole than they may have been before a tentpole. Here's an example, this case study of an automotive accessories brand who did implement some bidding adjustments based on the hour of the day, which improved the return 25% and reduced their CPCs 49%. So really focusing on this can be impactful to your advertising strategy and your performance. All right. The last piece here is leveraging historical learnings, learning from the past. One thing that's really important is planning for all scenarios. So look at your past events, last year, previous tentpole moments. What happened and how could you have planned for that better? One thing we do with a lot of our clients is plan for these scenarios. So we talk about, hey, if CPCs increase above a certain threshold, are we comfortable with that? Do we have budget to cover that, or should we pull back? What actions can we talk about taking ahead of the tentpole so we know exactly what to do when the day comes? Another thing is campaign scale. If you have new campaigns that you just started, can they scale appropriately? Or will it take some lead up time period to scale? If they're not scaling, how are you shifting that budget to adjust for that campaign scale? And then sales performance is another huge one. If you find that you're underperforming in sales performance against your forecast, what are the actions that need to be taken? Do you want to pull back ad spend? Do you want to increase ad spend? How are you adjusting those things? And talk about these ahead of the promo period so that everybody has a plan and knows exactly what to do next. So really plan for all scenarios based on what's happened in the past. And a few other tips here. Obviously, prepare in advance for Q4. You want to make sure you have your game plan, your budgets, your bids already ready to go, your promotional campaigns set up, ready to perform and ready to turn on. Your creative, a big thing this year has been Amazon's been adjusting or getting a little bit more strict on what can and can't be in creative. So make sure that will get approved before you, update some of your ads. Utilize all the promotion tools that Amazon has to offer. We like lightning deals, but there may be other things that really work for your brand. So test out everything and use everything you can to your advantage. And then just be prepared to adjust throughout Q4. Your spend, your budget, your keyword bids will definitely need to be adjusted throughout the quarter. And the last piece here, now that we've set our strategy, one thing we've seen a lot with clients is we see that our brand keyword campaigns, our retargeting campaigns, our loyalty campaigns, maybe not spending where they should be spending, which means we need to add consumers to the funnel and fuel that consideration. So really that middle of the funnel, how are we driving people into that middle of the funnel so we can pull them down to be ready to purchase and really max out our retargeting, our branded search campaigns. So focusing on new to brand, focusing on detailed page views, focusing on branded searches, and gauging all of that with the tacos metric, focusing on that middle of the funnel. And how do you do that? Obviously, there's sponsored ads, and there's also DSP within Amazon advertising. Within sponsor brands, or sponsored ads, there's a few ways you can do this. One is with sponsor brand or sponsor brand video ads. You can drive consumers to cross-sell different products within the ad, as well as drive brand consideration by driving consumers to the store. So as Eva mentioned earlier, just making sure you have a store page, a deal page ready to go for the time period and drive consumers there to shop everything you have within your catalog. Another way with this is within PDP targeting. So instead of just focusing on branded searches and search results, target different PDPs, competitors, or other adjacent categories to make sure you are staying top of mind in that consideration period. With DSP, there's a few different areas here. One is with your in-market audiences. Make sure you're really focusing on that lead up period, driving the awareness, getting people to understand who your brand is, and hopefully perform a branded search that you can then capitalize on with your lower funnel. Video is also a great way of building awareness. If you don't have video to run this year, really consider it for next year and making sure it's a huge part of your strategy. And I haven't really talked about AMC too much, but utilize AMC audiences to fill in the gaps where possible. This is a good example of some of these AMC audiences. So when we look at AMC, it's not meant to replace your current strategy. Instead, it's focused on filling all the leaks and the gaps in the strategy. So you're protecting your upper funnel investment by understanding who's interacted with your upper funnel that haven't been retargeted and building these personas to target those consumers. A big thing this year too is CPCs have been increasing. Eva mentioned earlier that there are some keywords that may be highly competitive and highly searched, like action figures. Understand with AMC audiences that you can retarget those consumers who maybe have searched those keywords but never viewed your PDP, making sure to protect that investment and really drive consumers to the PDPs that may be searching those high volume keywords. And then hugely at the bottom of the funnel, cart abandoners and frequent detail page viewers. So who are these consumers that continuously look at your PDPs or have put something in their cart but haven't purchased? And how are you making sure to get in front of them again? So utilize AMC to fill those leads in the funnel. And then just some examples of what we talked about earlier with sponsor brand ads, making sure you're showing a few different products. If the products have deal, are they getting deal badging within those sponsor brand ads? And how are you driving them to the store? And what pages in the store are you driving them to? And then lastly here, that PDP targeting piece with sponsored ads. How are you improving cross-sell and consideration? Are you just showing your products on other similar products? An example of this could be if you're advertising Keurig K-Cups, are you just advertising on other K-Cups? Or are you focused on cross-selling and basket building on coffee Keurig machines? So understanding that strategy of that consideration and cross-sell and use it to your advantage within the Q4 period. One thing that's important to note here is you really want to make sure your products have enough inventory to support all of these ad strategies within your Q4 advertising strategy. And to end it off here, just a little bit about Tinuiti. Tinuiti is the largest independent full funnel performance marketing agency in the US across the media that matters most. Tinuiti has $4 billion in digital marketing media under management and over 1,000 employees. If you want to learn more about our services and everything we do, please visit www.tinuiti.com. And I will pass it over to Chelsea to run us through what's next.
Chelsea, I think you might be on mute.
All right, thanks so much. All right, so what we're talking about now is inventory. Obviously, you can't sell and you can't advertise if you don't have inventory. So I want to talk about strategic moves that will help you to not only get in stock, which I know is a concern for people, but how to stay in stock as well as how to boost profits. And we're going to be focused on... You're muted. And you can hear me, right? All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're going to be focused on specifically what are those pieces that you can move, what are the games that you can play to benefit you throughout this time. Right now we have a couple of things that are working against us. We have shorter inventory deadlines. We have a reduced number of delivery appointments, and we have tighter capacity limits. So people are seeing more their estimates being reduced. They need more space, and that's becoming a problem for people. So we're going to talk about all of those things. And the idea is that you want to be playing chess, not checkers. So the best way to play chess is to know the rules, and more importantly, to know the pieces and know the pieces, the benefits of each one, so that you can play the game to the best of your ability. So first and foremost, we should talk about the pawns. In a chess game, the pawns are used to gain a strategic advantage. So oftentimes you will sacrifice your pawns in order to move into a position where you are setting the rest of your pieces up to play a smart game. And a little bit about strategy. One of my favorite quotes is from someone named Peter Drucker. He's known as the father of modern management. And he says about strategy, it does not deal in future decisions, but on the future impact of present decisions. So the moves that you make right now are going to dictate whether you get in stock, whether you stay in stock, and how much money it's going to cost you to get through Q4 as successfully as possible. Because it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep. So the first step would be to clear out excess inventory. And that's going to do a couple of things for us. What that's going to do is to reduce fees if you have product that is sitting at Amazon and we're headed into Q4, you know that there's going to be a huge spike in your storage fees. You're going to be paying $2.40 per cubic foot for every product that's in there. So you want to focus on those products that you don't need to necessarily have them for Q4. For example, if you've got products right now for other seasons, is there a way to sell through some of those products so that you're not accumulating a bunch of storage fees? Do you have excess inventory that you need to push? This would be a great opportunity to do that. And the other benefit of this is that it will clear out capacity. If you're stressed about not having enough space, you see the estimates that Amazon's giving, they are much lower than what you're forecasted to sell. You should look at what is that inventory that is taking up that space, and is it actually needed? Can you create sales campaigns, drop your price, whatever you need to do, but actually starting now to create those campaigns to sell through as much inventory as possible. And another piece of that strategy would be looking at your products and determining, even if you're going to sell those products in Q4, you can leverage this period of time to start moving through that inventory to increase your rankings going into Q4. So maybe you have excess inventory, you have more than what you need. Try to push through and sell as much as possible and get your rankings into a good position for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and the sales season. One of the ways to do that, this is something that we do inside of SoStocked. We have projections for inventory, and it's very important to know the age of your inventory. So being able to understand that, the best report for this is the FBA inventory report. It's where the data will lie. I know there is a dashboard that Amazon has, but I find it's easier to process the data if it's in one place, and it's able to be very easily digested. So looking at your FBA inventory report, we've got the path right there. It's going to be as part of your fulfillment reports in your inventory page or in your inventory section. And towards the end of the document, you'll see something like this. This is the number of units that are aged a certain amount. So that last one is your products that are aged over a year. And those are the ones that are really hitting you hard with those fees. Start focusing on those fees. How do you move that inventory as fast as possible, and then move back so that you're addressing each product that has high inventory or high levels of inventory in those older ranges, and then move your way back to make sure that you're leveraging fourth quarter as much as possible so that you can get that inventory off of your books. All right, now the next piece would be the Rook. And the Rook is all about power moves. So this is where you go in and you get really tactical about how you gain your capacity. Beyond just the capacity that you have, like I mentioned, the ability to leverage some of that excess inventory and move that excess inventory out of there. That should be part of your capacity game plan. And then you also have the ability to request more space. Most people understand this, and it's something that you're maybe considering. It's important to know that getting in as quickly as possible is the best strategy. What that does is it locks in your capacity and allows you to get the lowest reservation fee possible. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that the closer that we get to Q4, the more frantic people get, and they start bidding high, and the spaces start getting filled up. So you've got the supply that is at a low and the demand that is at a high. It's better to lock in your rates now, even if you're not sure that you need that space. Maybe Amazon, you haven't seen what the actual amount of space is, and you think, well, maybe Amazon will give me more than what they're estimating. I'm just going to wait and see. You should be getting what you need. And then if Amazon, there's a couple of different policies to understand here. So the first and foremost is the lowest reservation fee. And what that is you get your bid in, and let's say your bid is approved for $1.50 per cubic foot. If at a later date, the next week or 2 weeks later, the highest bid is $1.25, which is less than your bid, even though it was approved at $1.50, will be granted at that lower rate of $1.25. So you get a new lower rate. So waiting is not going to be to your benefit. Getting those reservation fees in as early as possible is an important piece to the strategy. Now, that being said, there are things that you can do if you want to cancel a request. Once your request is approved, there aren't very many options to cancel, but there are specific parameters that will allow you to cancel that request. And so what you're allowed to do is, you've got your capacity, it's confirmed, your estimate was low, and then Amazon comes in, and once they approve for a higher amount. You're not going to have to pay for that extra capacity if you cancel. That's one of the few places where you can cancel. If your estimated limit is lower than the actual capacity limit that you were granted, you have the opportunity to cancel up to 100%. So you can do a partial cancellation, or you can cancel the whole amount of requested capacity. One of the things that was newly added is something called auto cancellation. You'll find this on your capacity manager dashboard, and that allows you to not have to think about, not have to remember to cancel. So if you have the desire to cancel, just turn this on, and it will automatically, once those capacity limits are confirmed, it will do the canceling for you. You've got a lot of stuff going on. It's hard to remember all the things. So as much automation as possible is always to your benefit, as long as you set it up the way that you want to. Then we have some good news. We don't always have good news when it comes to Amazon and fees. You might have recalled from last year, there was something called a storage overage fee. And what this was is, let's say you have a bunch of capacity, you bid for a bunch of capacity, you didn't sell as well as you thought you would. The new January capacity limits come in, and all of a sudden you're thrown into having stock over that capacity limit. Amazon would charge you a fee that was accruing on a daily basis. It was called the storage overage fee, and that has actually been sunsetted. They're not doing it as of July 1st. They're no longer doing storage overage fees, so you don't have to worry about that aspect of overage. The things that you do need to worry about are things like, if you're over capacity, you won't be able to send inventory in. So even though they don't have the overage, you will be at capacity or over capacity, and you'll have a problem with getting in new product. When it comes to strategies for your capacity, there's a couple of things that you should look at, especially if you don't think you're going to have enough FBA capacity. Of course, prioritizing your best sellers is always an important strategy to implement. Minimally supply your lower velocity or slower sellers to make sure that you don't run out of your best sellers. If you had to trade off, what are those products that you want to ensure you never run out of stock? And what are those that wouldn't, if you did run out of stock because you didn't have enough capacity, wouldn't be catastrophic, right? I'm going to give you some tips on what to do in that case. If you don't have enough FBA capacity, there are some things to do to help you to always stay in stock, even in that scenario. And then, like I said, place your bids now, lock in those reduced rates, and then keep an eye on and cancel if needed, leveraging that auto cancellation if you want to. All right, and then let's talk about this next step. So I know a lot of people have switched over to using Amazon warehousing and distribution. The knight on the chessboard allows you to maneuver around obstacles. Very strategic. So we look at FBA and the FBA capacity limits and the fees and all of those things as obstacles that are connected with selling on Amazon. So AWD can come in and help you to maneuver around some of those things. There's a lot of different benefits to AWD that Amazon has strategically and specifically put in place so that you can construct the best inventory strategy possible. So let's talk about some of those things. And just as a caveat, I wouldn't recommend, hopefully by this time you've played around a little bit with AWD. A lot of people have moved into the platform. It's never a good idea to put all your eggs in one basket or to go all in on a specific strategy, which is why I'm talking about doing a couple of different things. I wouldn't necessarily look to abandon your 3PL. It is Amazon after all, and putting, you know, everything in Amazon might not be the best choice. So that's just a caveat to say, proceed with caution, but then let's talk about how do we leverage AWD in the best way possible. So Amazon warehousing and distribution has something called auto replenishment and has a couple of perks. So auto replenishment means that you get around your capacity. You can have a ton of inventory at Amazon warehousing and distribution, and it's not going to affect your capacity limits. Your inventory is able to be sent from AWD into FBA using auto replenishment, so that even if you're at capacity with your best sellers over at FBA, you're still able to keep your inventory in there. It's checked in. It's the same check-in time. So you do have to get your inventory into AWD by the 19th of October. But once that inventory is in there, Amazon will have your back in terms of auto replenishment, as long as you have auto replenishment turned on. I'd keep an eye on this because you can't be certain that Amazon's going to have the rock solid understanding of what your plans are, right? They don't know necessarily what ads you have in place. They don't know what strategies, email campaigns. You know more about your product and your game plan than they do. So keep an eye on that. The auto replenishment can be turned on, but you can send more inventory in if you have the capacity at FBA. So 100% trusting Amazon and trusting the Amazon inventory forecasting algorithm is not the best way to go about it, but it is something that helps you to get around those capacity limits. The other benefits of using AWD, you're able to avoid inbounding fees. I'm going to talk a little bit about what other fees come into play. It supplements your capacity, like I said, and you're able to stay in stock even if you're at that limit. The products that I would focus on are the lower velocity products. So your best sellers, send those into FBA as much as possible, but those lower velocity products, you can supplement that space with those, make sure that you are dripping inventory in through that auto replenishment. The other items that I would send in, I call it aspirational inventory. And what that is kind of your stretch goal. You send in your inventory to Amazon for what you are forecasting to sell, but you might have been or decided to be over ambitious and you have extra inventory for your best sellers. Consider keeping that at AWD or at your 3PL as aspirational inventory. And then of course, any inventory that's a surplus for 2025, that's a good place to keep it, either there or at your 3PL, any surplus that has to be sent in for January, February. All right, then we want to talk about what are some of these other benefits, right? You want to take advantage of the difference in prices. We know that when we've got this inventory, we're collecting storage fees all the time. So when you're considering what to send into FBA, and that's where we tie in the aspirational inventory. At the end of the Q4 season, the sales are going to stop, right? You're going to have a reduction in sales. You don't want to be stuck with a bunch of inventory sitting at FBA when that music stops. So being strategic about that, especially towards the end of the sales season, making those choices, where should the inventory be at the end of that time? And AWD is a good place to have some remaining excess inventory sitting rather than FBA. We look at the fact that Amazon warehousing and distribution charges 48 cents per cubic foot whereas Amazon charges 78 cents per cubic foot for standard products. It also does not have that peak storage. That 48 cents stays consistent over the 1 year. So you're not taking on those extra storage fees. This is where you get into increasing your profitability by being smart with how you're approaching your inventory plan. And then we have something called base versus integrated. So base versus integrated, Amazon really wants you to be using more of their services, right? Amazon makes more money the more services that you use with them. So considering looking at using integrated, and what that is you're using one of their shipping features. So Amazon Global Logistics or Preferred Partner Program, right? Those are things that would unlock the integrated rate. And I'll talk about how do you ensure that you are eligible for that. But the things that get unlocked are you actually get a discount on your storage fees from 48 cents per cubic foot to 36 cents per cubic foot. You get a discount on the processing fee, and you get a discount on the transportation fee. Something to keep in mind, it's really important for you to understand your profit margins before jumping into converting to AWD. The storage fees look great. You're always going to save on the storage fees, but then you've got this processing fee and this transportation fee. Transportation fee is $1 per cubic foot. So as Amazon sends inventory from AWD to FBA, they're charging you $1 per cubic foot to send that in. So compare that to what you're saving in terms of inbound shipping before you make the transition. And then as far as your box processing fee, every item that you send into Amazon, they're going to charge you a fee to check that item in. The higher the number of units per box you have, the less expensive it's going to be per unit for that box processing fee. So if you have 25 units in a box, it's going to cost you 10 cents per unit for that processing fee. But if you've got a product that's got 8 units, it might not be cost effective for you to use AWD for that particular product because you're looking at 31 cents per unit just for that fee alone. We want to get into really quickly the benefits, just kind of a summary. So we talked about the things that are going to be avoided by using AWD. Inbound placement fee you're not going to pay. If you've got inventory that's been sitting there for 8 months in AWD, you're not going to pay those aged inventory fees like you would if you had the same inventory sitting at FBA. And then, like I mentioned, peak storage. There is also, you also have a waiving of the low inventory level fee if you've got the auto replenishment turned on. So if auto replenishment is turned on and you're using it consistently, which means that at least 70% of your inventory that went into FBA came from AWD over the last 90 days, you will have low inventory level fees waived. And that is because Amazon is responsible for keeping your inventory in a good range, so you won't have those fees that kick in. And then you also, like I mentioned, have integrated rates. To be eligible for integrated rates, you need to have at least one shipment using AGL or preferred carrier in order to be qualified to get those integrated rates. So that's one shipment minimum in the last 4 months. So just keep that in mind. If you are doing your profit analysis based on integrated rates, that's how you stay qualified for integrated. All right, then we get into the bishop. The bishop is a diagonal moving piece. So we'll talk about how do you sidestep the fees. We've talked about a lot of different fees, so I'm not going to get into, we've talked about aged inventory and some storage fees. Inbound shipping is one of those other pieces to the puzzle that really threw a wrench in a lot of people's game plans this year. So Amazon came out with a new rule just recently over the last month, and it applies to Amazon Optimized. There were a lot of times where sellers were trying to send to Amazon using the maximum number of locations, so they could avoid the inventory fee, the inbound inventory fee, and it wasn't working. So Amazon has announced an additional rule that should help to understand what are those things that you need to have in place so that your shipment is structured in such a way that Amazon optimized will be accessible to you. And we're calling that the 5-box rule or the 5-carton rule. What that is that you have to have at least 5 identical cartons or pallets for every single item that you're sending into Amazon. It doesn't mean that your pallets have to be full of one product. What it means is that you have to have 5 pallets. Whatever mix of inventory is on there, they have to be identical. So you can have the same pallets, they have 3 different products on them, but the quantity of those products and the mix has to be the same. So they have to be identical, at least 5 of those. So when you're building these shipments, keep that in mind. If you have even one product that has less than 5 cartons or pallets, you're not going to be eligible at all. So it might make sense to split that out. If you have a product that has low volume and you don't want to send 5 cartons, just make a separate shipment for that. So this guideline is good for high volume sellers where you can have those 5 cartons or 5 pallets. And for things like the slower sellers, the hazmats, other storage types, and those that you want to send less than 5 cartons, just keep those separate. You're going to pay a partial fee or you're going to pay the minimal fee, but Amazon optimized to avoid those extra fees. Just be very certain how you're going to structure that, and then coordinate with your 3PL. Take the time now to work out what do those shipment splits look like, how are you going to organize that so that the 3PL is ready to do that. They're very busy during this time, so taking the time now means that you're not going to have confusion and delays and additional fees later. One of the other things that we're advising for the SoStock users in our inventory software is to set something called a minimum transfer quantity. What that is when you're doing your forecast, set a limiter so that you say, I never want to send more than 5 or less than 5 cartons. If you do that, let's say you've got 20 units per carton. You never want to send less than 5 cartons. You're going to set your minimum to that 100, right? 100 units. I never want to send less than that. Even if my forecast says 80 units, I'm going to send 100 to make sure that I hit that 5-box minimum. And what that's going to do is allow you to avoid those inbound fees. So that's part of the strategy. Take the time to make sure that those things are set up with your 3PL so that you can move forward and avoid as many fees as you can. And then lastly, the queen can move in any different direction. So consider that, keep all of this as part of your strategy. Use every single piece of the chessboard and take advantage of the adaptability that comes with understanding the fee policies, understanding the programs, and understanding how they all work together as laid out here. And then the last piece of this, in terms of keeping your profitability as high as possible, is to keep in mind the reimbursement and the losses and the damaged items that happen at a higher rate of inside of the Q4 period. So you've got products that are potentially going to go missing. You're going to have loss, you're going to have damage, an increase in returns, and you have limits to what you're able to collect on. So Amazon's issued the ability to automatically reimburse. They're automatically reimbursing you, but that doesn't mean that there is not going to be problems with that process. And we've talked about this in some of our other webinars and things like that. Keep an eye on, is Amazon actually reimbursing you for all of those things? Is the automated system working? Because we know that Amazon launches new features, they launch new programs, and they don't always work. They're announcing this right before Q4. Timing isn't that great because they're launching it right before a period of time where the loss and damage and returns are at their highest. It's very suspect that they're launching it during this time. So don't feel like you can trust Amazon and you don't have to pay attention anymore. This is the time when you need to pay attention as much as possible, because the shrinkage from your inventory, if they don't pay you back because their system can't handle it or their system is faulty, you have only 60 days after that item has been reported lost or damaged to file those reports. So December comes around and you haven't paid attention to what's happened in October, for example, and you don't get paid back. You're so distracted with everything else that's going on. You've passed that window of time. You're not collecting on that money. Amazon hasn't awarded it to you. It is just a recipe for losing some of that profit that you have taken all this time setting yourself up to claim. So you've got more chaos. You've got to have a backup plan. So you've got to have a plan. Your plan should be to pay attention to what's lost and what's damaged and customer returns, and make sure you can account for every reimbursement. That would be the first piece of your plan. The backup plan, I would say, is to make sure that you've got a system such as seller investigators who can go and clean up the rest of that. Make sure that anything that might be missed, either on Amazon's side or on your team's side, go through and make sure before that 60-day period expires that you're picking up everything that's owed to you. All right, so just to sum up, you want to clear out your excess inventory. You want to get tactical with capacity by clearing as much as possible, placing your bids, leveraging AWD for that increased capacity, as well as the fees and the savings, the integrated rates. Make sure that you're avoiding any other fees possible, such as leveraging the Amazon optimized inbounding, and then combining these all in the perfect mix that allows you to stay in stock and be as profitable as you can in Q4. And that's your checkmate. That's the profit in Q4, the game plan, and tie that into your listing optimization plan, as Eva talked about, and what Carrie talked about with your advertising. Make a campaign to advertise not just your best sellers, but those items at the beginning so that you can move them, avoid aged inventory, and clear out that storage. All right, and then just finally, last little note about Carbon6. As a co-founder of SoStocked, we became a part of the Carbon6 family in 2022. And we are an all-in-one Amazon growth platform. We have many different tools for Amazon sellers and for e-com sellers. We are working with, we're powering over 50 billion in yearly sales. You can see some of the brands, some of the largest brands and agencies, aggregators that we work with, such as Hefty and Duracell, Reynolds Wrap. Our tools are designed to help sellers to get as much drive as much revenue as possible, save as much money as possible, and use those additional profits and additional cash flow to launch their business to the next level and to continue to scale. Because it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep. It's about driving new revenue and focusing on the profit and cash flow side of your business to scale that business. So we have tools to help with all of that. Seller investigators is one I already mentioned. They help with reimbursements and getting you back as much money as Amazon owes you as possible. And we have SoStocked that can help you with all of these things, planning your strategy for your inventory management. Beyond just inventory forecasting, we forecast for fees so that you can see what fees you might have coming up and how can you avoid those fees so that you're maximizing that profit.